Hey everyone, Maury Dunbar here at Painted Studio. We are not live today because Meta is having issues connecting their lives. So instead, I'm recording a video on my phone and I'm going to post it as if it were live. So while you're watching this, just pretend I'm live, watch the video, and then of course post any questions that you have in the comments, and of course I will answer them. So yesterday's video, we did the epoxy pour over the photo, and look how cool that came out. Now, we had some overage, and that's not a big deal. I actually overfilled this, so while it was still wet, I used one of these little plastics, I don't know what the hell they're called. They're like a little tiny turkey baster, and sucked extra epoxy out. So the epoxy did wonderful lacy things. You can see that pearl kind of spread everywhere, and we've got all this really nice movement. And we'll come back to this later and we'll move on to the next step, but I am super happy with how that came out. Very, very cloudy, romantic, just what I was hoping it would do. So the other thing is I had epoxy left over, as I always do, because I don't measure. I had no idea really how much I would need there. I knew I was making more than I would need. So I poured a Christmas ornament, and this one says Mary in it and has a little star, and then there's a hole at the top. And I just poured whatever colors I had. I might have thrown a little extra alcohol ink in here to use up some of the clear stuff. And I'm just gonna unmold it right now. Now, I've had these molds for years. If you go back to some of my other lives, you'll remember that I've had these, made tons and tons of ornaments, but I don't want to waste my product. So I'm going to do the uncasting of this right now, and I hope everything comes out and I don't rip my mold. Come on. Come on, you little stinker. Oh, it's always the little things that stop in there. There we go. Everything came out. And if you look right here, it says Mary, so that's perfect. And on the edges, I have a little extra, but look how, first of all, look how pretty that came out. I'm really, really happy with that. So to fix this, and I should say, this cure is less than 24 hours. So this bends. This is not a hard cure yet. It's very flexible, and it's the same as the one on the board, only you won't notice that because the board's there. So to get this extra edge off, when it's at the under 24-hour stage, I just take an X-Acto knife and trim that stuff off. I know some people have other tools they use, like little breaker things. Frankly, I prefer the knife. I have a little more control over how it comes off of here. And when it's in this early stage, epoxy takes 72 hours to come to a full hard cure, complete chemical cure. So if I get this around the 24-hour stage, it's still nice and flexible, even though it's safe to touch. And I can clean this up so much easier. So I'm just gonna get a couple of these spots along here, and I'll come back and do the rest. But as you can see, I just trim that off with an X-Acto knife. I just take it. I know, so somebody's gonna freak out because I'm running the knife close to my thumb. I've been doing this for years, and it's only when I manage to cut away from my thumb that I end up cutting myself. All right, so that came out great. The panel came out great. We're going to move on to our little animals. Now here, this is the one that I applied the water-based acrylic gold leaf size on here from C. Roberson's, one of our products. And then I'm gonna grab the deer. And this is the one that I applied the Manetti gold leaf size, which is oil-based. And we're going to apply gold leaf to our red leaf. I keep saying gold leaf, but it's actually red leaf, to both of them so you can see the difference in the shine. And I want to see how it looks on these too. We sized these yesterday, and this is our red leaf. Now this is gorgeous. Again, I can handle it with my fingers. because I'm not going to oxidize it. So we're going to flip the camera down a bit. Let me get this down. Now this is probably a colored aluminum, so that's what I expect it to act like. It's not a Japanese colored silver, which is stiffer and extremely brittle. So I got a piece of this stuck to my finger and I don't want to waste it. Look at how that goes on there. Oh, that's so pretty. So we're gonna leaf both of these and then clean both of these up, and we'll see exactly how they apply. Now, I like how this comes for this kind of a project. It comes sandwiched between two sheets. Usually leaf is in a booklet or in a stack, so that if I pulled the top paper off, the bottom paper is still there. These actually come like sandwiched in here, like this. So each sheet is like individually wrapped, for want of a better way of saying it. Okay, let's get this. And these are relatively small, so they're not going to take a ridiculous amount of leaf. Now, where they will take a lot of leaf is right in here at the face where there's a lot of detail. I'm going to have to come back once I get the first layer of leaf on. I'm going to have to come back and put more on. I know that. Usually you're even putting two sheets down at one time to do this. So I'm going to pull two sheets, make sure my hands are clean. Here's one sheet, and I'm just going to lightly set it there. And then I'm going to get a second sheet right away, and we're going to tap it down, because what happens then is the first sheet breaks and gaps, and then the second sheet comes back and fills in the gaps. And that actually worked pretty nicely. There's still going to be, I know how I work. There'll probably still be spots I have to come into. But that works very nicely. And let's come back here. And this is a skewings brush, so it's what I use to both pounce the leaf in and then break any of the extra stuff off. All right, so I'm just going to tear some of this and apply it where it needs to be applied. You know, I do a lot of work gilding with really fine golds and silvers. We'll do some of that later with our panel, but here, this is a little bit of craft gilding, so I can get my hands into this leaf, which I would normally not do with other finer metals, because the finer metals are manufactured thinner and they are very delicate to handle. You really do need to use the tip and all of that to make it happen. But when you're kind of using these heavier metals, you can stick your hands in there and get going on stuff, and it's not a problem. It doesn't hurt the metal. You can actually have a little control over it with your hands. I rarely use any kind of tool or tip other than maybe the actual sheets of paper that the leaf comes in when I work with this kind of leaf, because it doesn't require it of me. All right, so let me get another piece. And then we're going to go in here. Let's get the ear. Okay, we're going to get the top of the head. Okay, come on. Now, you remember this was sized with our Manetti 3-hour size, which I have told you is much closer to a 12-hour size. As you can see, I can attest to that because I am gilding this, you know, the next day as opposed to within 3 hours. So let's get everything kind of covered up here. And I'm gonna need a little more over here. And I wanna put the panel just up out of reach so I don't accidentally get leaf on the curing epoxy. That would, well, it's not tragic, it's just a pain in the neck to try to clean up. I would need a little bit. And if I wanted to, I could always come back in, apply more size if I found I missed a spot or I was having a spot that was just not, that had set up and actually dried faster than I need it to. Because that's happened to me on projects as well. And just put a little more size on. Put it on carefully because oil size is definitely different than water size. But it will work. Goodness knows how many times I've done it. Okay, let's get this. And I still need a little more on this side because that was the side I used the single piece of leaf on. And the fun thing with this is, you know, this is really, because it's heavier, it actually requires more pressure to get it all on. And that means I get to be a lot more hands-on with it, which I kind of love, getting my hands into this stuff and rubbing all over the shape of it. And it makes me have a closer connection to what I'm creating. As much as I love working in real gold, don't get me wrong, but it's so delicate that you don't want to touch it until you're ready to burnish everything off. When it's like this, I can get my hands in it, get messy with it, and it just adds to it instead of ruining all my metal. Okay. All right, I think I've got that pretty well applied on here. And there will always be some gaps. I am an imperfect gilder. I will always find some place where the leaf breaks on me. I should have had a little more size applied, something like that. But that's okay. Again, if I need to, I can put some more size on here and touch it up. And sometimes it just is a matter of me getting a couple pieces of leaf over to where I need it and just really kind of massaging it on when you're dealing with something with texture like this. See, like right here, I probably didn't get any gold leaf size right in there. All right, so we're gonna set this to the side and then we're gonna put the leaf on our little mouse guy. And then we'll clean the skewings off of each of them so you can see the difference in the shines. All right, let's move that out of the way. And yes, we will have packets of 20 sheets of this leaf available on our website. It will come just as you see me using it in these little papers, and then we put them in a little tiny envelope or plastic baggie so that they're all together. And they're not terribly expensive. They're like, I think $4.50 for a package of 20. But I had seen this red leaf and just loved it. Now, As you can see, the water-based size grabs just as nicely. And I have no problems with that either. Again, because we came back in. Now the water-based size will stay, it says it's supposed to stay sticky forever, sort of like our foil adhesive. I have found though, especially in hot, dry areas, it kind of dries out a little bit after, you know, 3 or 4 days. It's not, it doesn't gild as well. It doesn't grab. It doesn't leave as nice a shine to it. It's just not as great an option after a couple days. I think it's better if you do it within 24 to 48 hours. Now this is grabbing up nice and shiny too. I'm loving how this is looking. This is going to take a little work because I got to massage it into the eye sockets and stuff here of the glasses, because there's a little face back there. So let's get this guy going here. And let's kind of get wherever I've missed there. And again, in this too, this is very easy. If I miss something, I just come back and I touch up a little size on here. And you see I'm wadding up the extra leaf into the eye, and I'm going to show you why. It's because that eye is not easy for me to get in there with my fingers, so I'm taking a paintbrush. Even though I had no trouble getting the size on in there, getting the leaf in there requires basically the same application as the size. You have to kind of get it in and jam it in. Get a brush in there and go at it. And it works actually quite well. I need to do the little bit of that too down here at the neckline. All right, just a little more left to get in. This guy is much smaller, clearly, and it's not taking me anywhere near as much leaf to get him covered. So the one thing is, when the oil-based size sets up, its adhesion is less aggressive than a water-based size. Usually because you're using oil-based, the oil size with real gold, and real gold doesn't need as aggressive a stickiness. It'll stick a lot easier with a slightly gentler tack level. Okay, let's see if I've missed any spots here. Whereas the water-based can stay much more aggressively tacky. Not at the same tack as, say, like foil adhesive, but it will be stickier than an oil size. Just the nature of the two products. Let's make sure I got everything stuck on. Still feels a couple sticky spots on the back here. Let's make sure everything's covered. All right, so we've got them both leafed, and I'm going to start pouncing this out. And what I'm doing right now is this just breaks any excess leaf off so that I can then come back in and burnish. I think I need to get my little brush in here, because I know I put size under the bridge of the glasses, but I might have missed a spot, so I'm probably going to have to come back in with some more size right under there. This is so cute. Oh my gosh. And I love this in this red. And I'm going to set that to the side, and we'll be back because it still has to be polished to get all the extra little bits off. Now this, as you can see, I'm kind of coming in and massaging it with my finger first, just because I want to see the tack on this is different than it was with the water-based. So I want to make sure I massage it into the crevices before I break things off. I want to get a really nice coverage because again, this tack was a little gentler. So I can come back in, take a little piece of leaf, touch up over a broken spot, it blends right in. And sometimes this just works a little better with your fingers. You never know, you have to try it all. Okay, so I've got a little spot right there. And there's a couple little spots right there. I think there's a spot on the head that I'm going to have to touch up because I keep trying to put a piece of stuff on there and it doesn't want to stick. That might be one of the spots that I missed. See, there's a spot I missed right here, that little black spot, and then there's a spot on the other side, and that's not surprising because it's really easy to miss something. That's a little piece of epoxy that I just picked up off the table. Okay, let's get right there. And of course, the more detailed something is, the more likely you are to find a spot that you missed and come back and patch a little stuff in. Okay, there's a little spot right there. Oh, that was a little piece of dirt that caught a piece of dust. We caught a piece of dust, folks. Shocker, I know. It's probably actually glitter, and I just can't tell in this light. All right, and keep coming back, seeing if I've missed any spots. With this texture, missed spots is not surprising, so I'm not worked up that I have spots that I have to kind of rub in and get working differently. You know, this is kind of got a very coarse texture. If it's smooth, it's a piece of cake. When you get a little bit of texture, you kind of have to work on things a little more. Okay, so we've got those both done. Let me move that all to the side and see if I can find my soft rag. There it is. Hang on a sec. Now, I could use my velvet buffing pad that I have, the Gold Father. It's sitting somewhere else right now for another project. So I'm just going to use a little piece of soft, this is flour cloth dish towel material. I always have something soft floating around that I can buff out a piece of gilded work, and you just work to get all the extra little things off. Now, I'm not throwing away any of the skewings because if I have spots that I need to touch up, I'm going to put it into a container, set it to the side. We'll use it to touch up this and all the other pieces. How cute is this? Okay, let's And of course I will clean this up before I bring the other thing back so that we're not flipping red leaf all over our panel with the epoxy. Because the uncured epoxy is almost like a magnet for this stuff. And you see, as I keep buffing, it looks like it's more and more and more is coming off, but all it's doing is pushing down the pieces that are adhered and getting rid of any of the little bits of stuff that shouldn't be adhered. Now, there's a spot here. Do I need to, will it take it if I rub it on, or do I need to touch? That's a touch-up spot. This does not bother me at all. Touch-up spots are perfectly normal for me. I know there are people who can do this and never miss a spot at all. That's not me. Okay, so there's that one. We're gonna set that over there. We're gonna come back in. We're gonna buff down our little mouse guy. And yes, the shine is slightly different. I'm not sure if the cameras will pick it up. If this were a smooth surface, the difference in the shine would be really noticeable. When it's a textured surface like this, it's not quite as obvious. But I'm loving this. See if I can get in here with this little brush and clean out the eye area. Now, if this, like I said, if this were real gold, I would not be as aggressive. It wouldn't require me to be as aggressive though. This is a heavier metal, so I have to work a little harder to break it all off. Okay. And this guy's so small. Okay, so here is our little gilded mouse. Now I still have to finish up with the glasses and stuff. We're gonna put a richer gold on these, but here is the deer. So if you look at this one, this has a smoother shine. This has an almost glittery shine. That's the slight difference in the texture from the two materials that we applied it with. But look how I mean, I'm loving that. Both of these are wonderful, and they'll make me very happy with my final project. So I'm gonna set those to the side. Remove my little rag. Clean up all my extra papers floating around here. Let me do this. Now the deer took about, I want to say about 10 pieces, but it didn't need to be that many. 1, 2. The mouse probably took 4. So this would have taken a total of 1 packet of 20 sheets of this leaf. This leaf is smaller than your regular composition leaf. As you saw, this about 3 inches by 3 inches. It's much closer to the size of true gold leaf. So just know that. And it's really, really pretty to work with. It breaks a little bit. It fractures a little like Japanese colored silver, but that's not what this is. It's probably closer to Chinese colored aluminum. We're gonna push this here so I can fold this up and save it for later. You all have seen me do this one before. I'm gonna set that to the side over here so I don't lose it, but it's away from what we're gonna do here. All right, here's our panel. Now, this came out perfectly. Why did I paint this gold when I'm painting over it? I just wanted the wood sealed. I can come back in here. If it's raised the grain a little bit, you come back in here, give it a light sand, but it's not going to matter in the long run, because what we're going to do, oh, I didn't open this beforehand. Okay. And I know whenever you see me do that, because I'm bad about keeping the edges of my jars cleaned, these jars are plastic. If I whack it on the edge of the table, it shifts the jar, causes it to flex, and I can then crack whatever product's grabbing around the edges. So that's what you're seeing me do. All right, we're using our Whitson's gesso. Now, gesso is sort of this funky product that is water-based, but it works like a combination of gesso and bowl. There used to be another product made like this. It was made specifically for picture framers and that kind of thing, so that you didn't have to quite be creating so many layers of different products. And you can water gild over this, you can oil gild over this, you can and use a water-based size over it, which is what we're going to do. But the water-based size in general is the least quality result, unless you're doing it intentionally like we will be doing, because it softens the gesso a bit, and that's fine. This is not your standard gesso from the art store. It's not spelled the same way. It's spelled G-E-S-S-A-U-X. It is a different product from what you might think it is. All right, I'm going to take a brush here, and we're going to build up 5 or 6 layers of this product. You can thin it down as much as you want to. You can build it up as thick as you need to. You can carve it. You can put impressions in it. We're going to be stamp gilding with it, which means, or punch gilding, sorry, wrong term, punch gilding. I'm just taking a little bit out here because I want to add a little water to it, just because my jar is older and it's gotten a little thick. But brushing it on at this thickness is fine. You can create beautiful textures with it. It's sandable, and it's really easy to use. Literally, I'm just getting a little water on my brush and brushing this on. So this will be my first layer, and I'm getting all the way to the edge of where the epoxy is. I made a very specific point of keeping the epoxy off of the wood. Will this be a problem if I got some on here? No, what I mean is I just didn't want it pooling up over the edge so that I'd have to sand it down and clear it down to where I needed it. If I weren't doing this in the matter of a couple of days, I would probably tape off my epoxy. But right now, it's still in a little bit of, it's still in its cure stage, so I don't want to do this. And if you see that you have some bubbles in your epoxy, that's not a problem. That doesn't bother me. And if it really bothers you, before you're doing what we're doing now, pour a little very thin coat of epoxy over this again and torch it. I like it. I like that little bit of extra texture to it because it catches the light nicely. So let's get this on here. This video will be posted unedited, so you'll see me do well, you'll see me make my messes, you'll see me do whatever I do, just like you do on lives. I don't know what's going on with Facebook today. I should say with Meta, because you can't go on, I can't go on Meta either. And I tried both my business and the personal page. And I can't really stream live on, I don't think I have enough followers on TikTok to stream live there. Never tried. I enjoy TikTok. I have a lot of fun watching some of the stuff, but unfortunately with what's happening with the lawsuits and the bans and all of that, as I watch this coming, I just couldn't invest myself that much in it, because if they pull it, what's the point? So we'll see what happens. The end of year ban is coming up soon, and I know there's a lot of stuff coming on. A lot of concerns from people happening right now. So hopefully those people who work very hard to build their TikTok following and earn a good, healthy, not weird stuff, but healthy living off of it, find something else. I know everybody's talking about lemonade. I haven't looked into that yet. I know they're saying that they can merge TikTok and Lemonade, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. So I'm sort of waiting stuff out. I mean, it's a little like everybody who went, every time something happens, they come up with a new social media platform, and I like to wait them out to see if they're really going to take. There have been so many. And quite frankly, those of us in the creative world, TikTok's not our place. I mean, not TikTok, Twitter. I'm sorry, you can't get me to call it X. That's just silly. I'm too old to start calling Twitter X. But it's not a place really great for artists and creative people, because we are very visual, and that is a word-based social media format. So videos and that sort of thing, they're just not as useful there unless it's news or politically based. The long videos like I create for here and for YouTube are totally different than what would work there. So we're seeing what the new year brings, but right now the end of the year is bringing drama on meta platforms. And I say meta platforms because Instagram and Facebook are both meta, and Live is not working on either one of them this afternoon. I'm sure it's just a glitch. I'm sure if it's anything bigger than a glitch, it'll show up on the news tonight somewhere. It'll show up in my news feed. All right. It would show up in the news too. My husband's a news junkie, so when he's around, we always have at least 1 or 2 news channels going around the house if it's at home, and if it's here at the studio, he's streaming something on his phone. I do not let him near my devices. You cannot play with those. All right, here we go. Now this dries very quickly, so I can come back in 20 minutes, put another layer on, and you will see that once it dries, it has this wonderful bowl, clay-like consistency. It is film forming, which is why it allows you to water gild. Now, some people water gild with alcohol. That is very, very traditional. I water gild with gelatin, and that works beautifully over this. Peter Miller, who is an amazing gilder, probably one of the top in the field as far as I'm concerned, and I think with most people who know Peter know he is like just the premier water gilder. We've talked about gelatin gilding and that sort of stuff on this material, and yes, you can burnish it. I have. But it's different than the way, it does function differently than, say, like a clay bowl does, where you use alcohol to help lock it down to the surface. You can't do that with this because that sort of dissolves the resin that forms the film on here. I think it works very beautifully with gelatin. And that's a whole lot of other information if you're not familiar with gilding. I mean, I learn every day. I wanted to be at this Society of Gilders class this past fall. I did not get there. That just didn't work. Some years I can make things work, some years I can't. So as you can see, we've completed our first pass. It needs to set up and dry a little bit, and we'll come back to do another layer. And I missed a few spots. See, you got to move things. I keep telling you this. You always need to move things around because you will see spots that you thought you got and you didn't. And corners are almost always one of those spots that I think I got and I didn't. So I'm just gonna get back. And there's a little grain in this wood. And by the time I'm finished, there won't be any grain. This will be full of our gesso product and it will be gorgeous. All right, let me flip the camera up. Try not to flip the phone out of the holder. So that is our video today. I'm sorry it wasn't live, but feel free to post questions, anything you might want to know on here. I'm always here to answer them for you. And hopefully I'll be able to get back on live tomorrow. Ignore my messy manicure. I've broken every nail. I have to get my nails fixed. We'll get there. Just like everything else, we'll get there. All right, everybody, have a fabulous day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.